hiring for potential, but rewarding predictability. So this is an interesting world, and things have changed over the last couple of decades. So maybe there were a time when we used to reward predictable actions. Some targets were given and people achieved it, and we were happy with that. But now a lot of people think about being disruptors, bringing a new idea on the table. But have we evolved as organizations? Have we developed our systems? So are we rewarding predictability, or are we rewarding still, or are we looking for game changers? So that is what we are going to discuss in this topic. And we have so much wisdom and experience here, so we'll hear from all. So maybe we'll start with ma'am.
That's a very interesting topic. And yes, we hire for potential. And I also talked about future of work. And if we have to create the future of work, we need to reward the people who think out of the box and are progressive when they're thinking. And who are also disruptor in the form of who have the ability to question the status quo or not be the yes boss kind. Yeah. So, yes, we have talent grid where we measure today's performance as well as what can be tomorrow and what in terms the person scores on say handling ambiguity or also have the capability to make mistake and come back with agility. So these kind of parameters which were not there yesterday are being observed, and many other personal facts also we see. Earlier people who had taken a break in a job were finding it very difficult to come back, but today we value that people who can take risk with their own life and prioritize have a good work-life balance or good balance between the hobbies or passion and work. We value it. We hire such kind of people. So I would say that yes, we are changing and we reward the people who are disruptors.
The way we see the workforce had changed drastically over the last few years. But do predictability required in today's world? Absolutely predictability is required, correct? Unless and until the predictability comes from bottom to the market, correct? Market needs predictability. If you are not predictable, market will not value your stock or whatever it is. So what I see and what I think what she has done, the grid that we talked about, correct? The flexibility in the performance and reward process, correct, is extremely important. Because if I am a leader having a large portfolio, I need a predictability in certain type of work. Versus in certain type of work, which is possible in R&D or more disruptive, or I need somebody to go and change certain processes. Yes, I may give them a time, they may be successful, not may be successful, but they're taking a risk. So I'll be rewarding a risk there versus I'll be rewarding predictability here. So one model fits all approach has to change. It is changing. I see that changing, but it's extremely important that we all understand that not doing a predictability is going to go away. No, we need to be predictable in certain type of work, and we have to be open and risk taking, and those also needs to be rewarded. Versus predictability also has to be rewarded.
Great. So are you talking from the perspective of this ambidextrous organization which we talk about, where we have to have certain people concentrating on innovation and maybe certain people talking about efficiency and meeting the targets? So are we thinking on that perspective?
No, what I'm saying is, yeah, as an individual, suppose I'm an individual which is getting deployed in a job which is keeping the lights on few systems. I need to be very predictable in outcomes and all that. But as an individual, I need to keep on learning new things. In the same job, I need to bring in innovation, automation. All those aspects also will come in. While some people will not be on this, they will be put on to a jobs which is focused on doing R&Ds, focused on doing disruptions, correct? So it's not necessary that the person I'm going to put on doing the keeps on like that, I will not monitor their ability to automate or innovate. But I will also reward both.
So I totally agree. The business has to move on. There has to be sustainability, but we have to move higher. So both required.
So just a different thought on this one. When we say predictable and high potential, it changes based on the size of the company or the company's established processes, right? Typically, The company which is established and having set processes, there you will see predictability taking more dominance. The reason being is that nobody wants to celebrate the failures, right? Everyone wants that we want to be our workforce to be risk-taking, challenging, challenge the status quo and everything. And the person who challenges that status quo and fails in the first attempt or second attempt, that person is not rewarded appropriately or not celebrated at, yeah, this is the person who took that challenge and failed, but he had a guts to take challenge and hence we are rewarding. It's like we reward the high performer, but we don't reward the failures. I'm not saying that every failure needs to be performed, right? Or risk takers, right? But if the same thing, if you see in a startup ecosystem, there they will kind of reward that, okay, someone who is taking the risk on a product development, coming up with new ideas, suggestions, they will see a kind of different approach, different ways of recognition. Okay, and the young generation, that is the millennials that we talk about, right? They are very good at kind of managing the second part, right? They are risk takers, they have exposed, they are digital kind of native generation. They are able to take that risk, okay? But when they go to the big companies, the predictability comes into play, and that's where the disconnect happens.
Just to add, right, as just coming to the young generation, I what we find is like anti-ambition. They don't want to be predictable. They don't want to do the same job or same work again and again. They're okay to do different things. They want to have that work-life balance, but at the same time, they are risk takers. They want to be agile. They want to be the first movers. If something comes up, they want to raise their hands and do the things. But yeah, I totally agree. If it's a large organization, large setup, there we have seen your prediction or your expectations, like whatever your expectation from your manager, from the company, or from the management. If you're able to achieve that, you will be rewarded.
I'll speak of this from two sides, right? One is when I see about myself as an employee, right? And what do I do when it comes to what is the KRA that I'm getting set for the year, right? Versus when I'm looking at prospective candidates, right? So I think looking at it in those two lenses is helpful, right? So today, looking at it as an employee myself, right? I think I play a role where I wear both hats, right? Trying to innovate on a few things, breaking the box, and a few aspects where I have to maintain the box, right? So here, doing periodic sync ups with multiple people at my management level and doing a drishyam effect of telling them that, hey, these are the goals, this is what I'm going to do. Here, I'm not expecting to win. This is the learning outcome that I'm chasing. This is a learning project. This is not supposed to get revenue for this project. Showing that over and over again helps, right? And for a few areas where maintainability and predictability is important, telling that, hey, this is a KRA, this is a target that we have set for the year. Periodically, this is the progress we are making. This is where I need help, and trying to ensure that we are hitting that is important. Now, when it comes on the hiring side, right, I think I've been extremely blessed to have been given a lot of opportunities because someone thought that, hey, this is a guy worth putting a bet on, right? There is some potential that is seen, right? But today, in some of the organizations, when I joined as a fresh employee, what I thought of from the outside that, okay, I've done ABC in my previous organization, I might be able to repeat some of those things here. It has been a lot harder to come into a new place, learn the existing ecosystem, how people work, how the culture works, and get actual outcomes delivered, right? So as a hiring manager, now when I'm looking at candidates brimming with excitement, potential, I keep questioning myself, do I also have the bandwidth to help this employee to learn the ropes of my company, right? Unlearn some of the things from their previous organization and learn the ways here. I was talking to a lender today, right? He was telling that they have hired this amazing branch head for Pune, but in the last 1 month of 15 cases that he brought in, only 3 were approved by credit, right? So he had to unlearn his previous organization's credit policy, so on and so forth, and be effective for this organization. So in addition to looking at potential, grit, the ability to learn, relearn becomes extremely important. So these are two ways I wish to look at it.
Yeah, I actually quite agree with the first point that you made. And I know you said that some people are for predictable and some people R&D or whatever are for this. I think in every role, there has to be some percentage that is predictable and some, in fact, Google has codified this with their whole 70-20-10 policy where 70% you work on certain things, 10% is innovation, 20% is something, right? So and coming from the startup ecosystem largely over the last 10 years, we look for that in every role, whether your customer experience, whether your website, whether you're on the sales floor or marketing. I think everyone has to have some sort of enterprising nature, proactive proactively able to drive certain initiatives. And for that, I think something that's very important is just alignment top down on vision, on passion, on energy. Like that culture is extremely important. But everyone has parts of the role that are predictable and boring, if I may say, and parts that are like innovative, interesting, new. And at least in startups, I think that is very, very important.
Give you a slightly, I think we are talking about two distinct type of management style, and we are looking at people to fit into that. One is typically called hierarchical management style. One is called network management style. So most startups work in a network management style. Primary reason is you are discovering the market. You need to move fast. So speed is very important. You can't afford a gap in knowledge, right? The knowledge needs to be pervasive across the system for you to move and discover the market. In hierarchical, where you have acquired that, and now you have to move fast, and you do heavy lifting. When you're doing heavy lifting, you need to have people who can just do the job, right? You cannot afford people to go and discover and all that. So I'll tell you how I hire. Right? I hire people based on attitude. I look at what is the attitude of a person when they are trying to do it. What are the attitudes I look at? Learnability is a key trait, especially in our business, which is tech heavy, is changing. You need to be highly learnable. I do not want people to be predictable. I want people to be agile, because in our business, it changes so rapidly, you cannot predict what's going to come. What I need is leaders who are agile, who are constantly looking at signals, risk, market, customers, their service offering, and adjusting to the market very, very quickly. So agility is very important for me. And third is actually very important is change the status quo. Right? If you are building any business, whether you are a scale business, if you just keep doing what has been defined, your orbit will not shift. And in any business, the orbit shift is very important. So people who bring that attitude are extremely important. They're very valuable. Now, when you hire such people, you also run a risk of people crossing the boundary. As a leader, you should know that I've hired this attitude. They will cross the boundary. You'll have to learn to live with this, navigate, help them, mentor them, teach them, train them, coach them. You also have to know that they will take a risk, they'll fail. You need to support them. You cannot say you failed. It's like an example I give often is judging a defender in a soccer player on how many goals has happened against him is a poor metric. The way to judge a defender is how many times they avoided an attack from an offense of the opponent team towards the goalpost. That's the right way to judge, rather than judging how many goals has happened against. So it's the attitude of proactiveness which is important, then how many goals has happened again. So similarly in our business, at least in the services, agility to me is very, very important. Predictability, I can compromise, but not on agility.
I have a question on that, if you don't mind. And practically speaking, when you're going through an interview process for hiring a person who's agile, how do you evaluate that? Like, is there certain questions you ask, or is there a certain assignment you make them do? Because we all know that we need to hire for certain intrinsic attitudinal skills, but measuring those is difficult. So it's a proxy.
Yeah, so you're right. It's easy. It's hard to assess.
Yeah.
It's very hard to assess. It's not easy. So one couple of things that I check is how do they react. So I ask them their learning. I don't want what if question. I said, give me an example of when you did something. It didn't go right. It maybe went beyond your expectation, in a positive or negative way. And what happened? What is the learning? How did you react? The thinking process of the reaction will tell us whether the person is thinking about the implications, ROI, etc., etc. So agility comes in the thinking process. And you're right, you could be wrong.
Yeah.
So when we hire for attitude, a lot of times we may end up, like our own blind spots. Right? We may hire somebody who's like, we thought X, Y, Z and happened to be ABC. So we have to, consciously build our own guard. 3 months, 6 months, do a checkpoint, talk to people and understand whether it's demonstrating the skill that you hired for. And this is still a lot of art. I don't think it's a science. Even I've made a lot of hiring mistakes, but more often I have ended up hiring good people.